They couldn't see that on TV.
Can you just kind of take us through how you felt the injury and then just all the issues that come with this injury?
I never really felt anything until I felt it, and which was Saturday evening. I was kind of just sitting at home, and my calf tightened up, and I came in the next day, told Rick that my calf had tightened up, and he asked me to perform a couple tests that I couldn't do, and so then tried to go through warm-ups just to see if it would loosen up. And I immediately knew as soon as I started shooting form shooting that I looked back at Rick and just shook my head no. And then he walked out and said, let's just shoot a couple more shots, see if it starts. And it was a disaster trying to shoot. And that's when came back down, and I knew I'd be out that night. And then just kind of had the idea, like, could I at least start the game? Because to me, it didn't feel like it was something that, like, oh, my calf's tight, it'll loosen up and I'll be back next game. Like, it just didn't feel that way in my soul. I just didn't feel that way. And so I asked to start the game just because I wanted to share that moment with Clay. I wanted to share that moment with Steph and just be out there with those guys. And that was kind of it. And now I'm feeling a lot better. I'm healing. I'm getting stronger each day, and just taking it a day at a time.
What have you learned about this injury, that a calf issue could actually kind of travel up to your back, and that's what you're dealing with?
Yeah, I had no idea that things could connect that way. That the main source of the injury wasn't the actual injury, or the actual spot that appeared to be injury, a symptom. I had no clue that was even possible. But when I replayed everything from the beginning of that day, the look on Rick's face when I couldn't perform some of the tests lets me know. Like, he knew right away what it was, because even like the MRI, like he said, we're going to MRI your back. Never MRI my calf. And so this whole process for me has been an extremely positive learning process. I've learned so much, like, not only about the back, just about the body as a whole. I'm strengthening my core. I'm stronger in my glutes, and so in the long run, I think this will be a positive, because I'm able to work on some things that you never really get the opportunity to just focus on those things without running right back onto the court. There's things that you work on in the weight room that you would love to transfer to the basketball court, but it's just not that simple of a transition, And now being able to work on those things and actually lock those things in, and then start working back to the court, like, I'm starting to see how they can transfer over. But there's things that I've been working on for 2 years that I couldn't really get to transfer, that now I'm starting to see the transition. And so I think if ultimately this will be a positive for me, and I think I'll come back stronger. I think I'll come back faster, jumping higher, due to the things that I'm able to work on now.
What do you think is a realistic timetable of when you could be actually back playing?
I'm hoping sometime within the next 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks. I can't really put a definite timeline on it, because at this point I'm just rehabbing and building strength and just kind of letting my body heal. So ideally, I would love to be back in the next 3 to 4 weeks. But I can't guarantee that, because it's not one of those things that's just like, oh, my ankle feels better, I can go back and play. It's just not that. As much as I wish it was, it's just not. And so when dealing with a back, the one thing I'm not going to do is rush back out there. And so and if I'm not back in 3 weeks, that also doesn't mean that I'm not able to play in 3 weeks either. I want to return when I'm 100% confident that I'm healthy, when I feel like I'm in great shape, because the reality is I don't want to return not in somewhat of game shape, and then you're laboring, your mechanics and running is wrong, and like all of these things, and then you're compensating, and then I get hurt again. So one thing I can tell you is, I know people will read into everything. In 3 weeks it'll be like, oh man, he's still not back. I'm telling you now, that doesn't mean there's a problem. That doesn't mean that there's a setback. I want to return to the floor when my conditioning is at the right level, when I can return, and that's those same things that I was talking about transferring onto the court, when my conditioning allows me to make sure that I'm not falling back into those bad habits.
Calf injuries are never good, but what was the initial concern level when it was revealed that it was actually?
Well, I think anytime you're dealing with a back, there's a major concern. And then, and quickly talking to, Dr. Watkins in L.A., Dr. Bobby Tay here in San Francisco, both of them, the first prognosis we got, we were like, oh, like, that's good. And then the second one was even better. So at that rate, you're kind of like, all right, I should be fine. And, like I said, it's a back, so you're never clearly out of the woods. And so even then, I'm still a little nervous, lead for those next few days. But once I started to see the progression and, getting stronger and pain going away and all of those things, then I was very confident in what the doctors had said, which is, that they didn't think I required surgery. I needed to do some rehab, get back stronger, and I'll be fine. And that's the path I've been on. I've been improving at a rapid rate. My workouts has been fun. I think y'all are enjoying them. I'm pretty intense in there. But, the process is the process. It's what I got. And, I'll continue to be in here each and every day, trying to get stronger and hopefully return to the court sooner rather than later.
I wanted to follow up with you. I was wondering, how much back pain are you feeling? What are you going
Zero
through?
now.
Head to toe.
None.
Okay.
No pain now, which is great. And, I think for me it's still about staying vertical, staying horizontal, making sure I'm not bending at the back and doing all the things that can possibly put me back in that situation. And my appointment on Monday was very, very, very exciting for me, just to get even better news and return to shooting the ball and like all of these things that I'm starting to progress to. So everything's looking up, and like I said, hopefully I'll be back healthy soon and back out there with the guys. But in the meantime, guys are playing well. I think, like I said, and looking at this and trying to take the positive out of it for my own self, I look at this team, and J.K. has gotten minutes, and he's played well, and Moses is now getting minutes, and he's playing well, and Otto, and just seeing different lineups that can work, whether I'm in that line, whether you plug me in with a certain lineup or I'm not in that lineup, just really being able to figure out these lineups has been great. So it was a little shaky at first, and to be expected. Like, the ball movement wasn't there. We were on one side of the court the entire time. And I expected that just because I stand at the top of the key most of the time and catch it and swing it to the other side, And so I think it took a little adjusting for the team, for guys, for Steph, for obviously Clay just coming back. It took a little adjusting for guys to get accustomed to me not being out there. But after a few games, you can start to see that we started to get the hang of that, and I think now we're on a 7-game winning streak, so that's been a positive as well. And now I'll come back and get plugged in wherever I'll be plugged in, and hopefully try to keep that rolling whenever I am back.
You mentioned the alarming word surgery, within one of your answers. How big a possibility had that been earlier in the process, and are you to the point where you're very confident that you won't have to get it?
I think the possibility then is the same as it is now. Initially, no one thought I needed surgery. Today, no one thinks I need surgery. In saying that, like I said, you're never clearly out of the woods, So neither one of the doctors that I've seen thinks I'll end in surgery. Rick doesn't think it'll end in surgery. And the way my body is feeling now and the way I'm progressing, I don't think it'll end in surgery. But like I said, when you're dealing with the back, that's always a possibility. So we had to cross that bridge and see if that's what was needed. No one thought it was needed, and my progression has shown that to be true thus far, and I believe it'll continue to stay that way.
Draymond,
No, I don't think it'll be a recurring thing. I don't think the doctors think it'll be a recurring thing. They've been kind of pretty consistent in what they're saying. You need to get your strength back. Once you're back at full strength, you can go. And so, and most importantly, it'll heal in the time in which you need to get your strength back. And so, I don't think it'll be a recurring thing, and neither do they.
From this season, obviously started with got to wait for Clay, see how it starts, and then we'll adjust for Clay. You were part of that, and now it's okay. Draymond is out for a little while. Do you worry at all? Does anybody this is a lot of adjustment for one season, or do you think it's just going to be pretty natural once you get back in, and maybe even Wiseman?
I don't think nothing is natural. All of it will take some work. Since my last time playing a basketball game with Clay, the NBA is totally different. The way the game is played is totally different. So I don't expect it to be as seamless as people may think, or people may want, or we may want or think. I don't think it'll be that seamless. I think it'll take some time to figure it out. Do I think this is too many adjustments having to be made throughout the course of a season? No, because I think that happens through any season. I've been fortunate enough to win 3 championships and play in 5 finals. And the reality is all of those seasons came with adversity. All of those seasons came with this guy to line up, that guy to line up, or an issue with this, an issue with that, or offense not flowing right, defense kind of not getting there, and you're having to make those adjustments all the time. And so I don't think it's too many. In saying that, I think it's been more attention around it because Clay coming back, and then, me going out. And so there's just been more things going on that's right in your face that everyone can put their finger on. But the reality is any championship team, if you go talk to someone that was on that team, they'll lay out a laundry list of adversity that they had to go through to get there that no one knew about. A lot of our adversity has just been on the forefront. And saying that, I think every other team is dealing with that as well this year. You've had guys, probably 85% of the NBA has had COVID this year. So right there alone is time missed. Then you get a nick or knack, and all of a sudden you missed a month of the season unintentionally or not due to just one specific injury. And so I think everyone's dealing with the same thing. You look at the Brooklyn Nets right now, they're dealing with the same thing. You look at the Los Angeles Lakers right now, they're dealing with it. Milwaukee has had their share of guys out. And so you can go around the league and find guys in and out of the lineup, and that's just what it might. Miami had their stretch of guys out. And, everyone's, you adjust in hopes that come April 16th, you're 100% healthy and ready to roll.
Draymond, you said you're not in any pain now. Did you get any kind of either an epidural injection or trigger points to?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't need any of that stuff. To be honest with you, I really wasn't in much back pain from the beginning, or any from the beginning. So throughout the whole process, I haven't had any back pain, and so that wasn't an epidural or something like that. It was never needed. An epidural is in part or in large part due to tolerate the pain,
Right.
or lessen the pain, and I didn't have. My symptom was my calf, and so I didn't have any back pain from the beginning.
Okay. How's the calf now?
It's fine. It's great and just building, but it's fine. It's not tight like it was anymore. So just building back up and allowing my body to heal.
And as you've observed, what's your thought on how you guys have established a home court advantage here now? I mean, there have been some tough years with no fans, and now it seems like it's starting to be that.
It is starting to be that, and it's exciting because, I think I've said publicly before, you kind of expected just that, like, we ran things at Oracle. It was loud. Now we're at Chase Center. We're going to run things again. It's going to be loud. And that was just the expectation. And then you walk in here and, we sucked. So that's probably one of the reasons it wasn't loud. We sucked. And then there were no fans and COVID and 10 fans and then 50 fans and then 1,000 fans. And so kind of a weird 2 years anyway. I think now to see that building back up, you're excited to know that when you're returning to play at home, it actually feels like a home game, and you can feed off that energy, and the crowd's going to get loud. And I think we've done a great job of building that up. If you would have asked me this a year ago, I probably would have been pissed off and said the fans aren't bringing it and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is we had to do our part. We had to bring winning ways back here. We had to lock back in and give people something to cheer about. And I think we've done that. We've held up our end of the bargain, and they're holding up their end of the bargain.
Draymond, what does it mean to be an all-star again? I know you've talked about wanting to get your game back to a certain place. Is that a special thing for you today?
It is a special thing. It's a very special thing because 2 years ago, when I had probably the worst season of my basketball career, including my first year ever playing, first grade, I made a goal that I kind of made a goal that this 2-year plan of how can I get back to All-Star. And the reality is that year I was so terrible and I was so out of it and like drained and exhausted. I don't believe in cutting corners. I don't believe it ever works when you do cut corners. So I didn't make a goal to be an All-Star last year. I made a goal to get back to playing good basketball last year, reestablish Draymond Green as a basketball player, as a brand. That was my goal going into last year, in hopes that would lead me to going into an Olympics, which I did, won a gold medal, and then coming into this season in shape, which I did, in hopes that will ultimately lead me to an All-Star appearance, that would lead me into another Defensive Player of the Year trophy, and then ultimately leading us to a championship. Up until this point, I have executed that plan to the T. I still think I can execute the last two things of it, and that's my goal. And, going into those summers and working with Travis Walton, like we worked this summer like I haven't worked in years, and it was beautiful. And, Travis, I kept telling him, and I even told my whole Converse team last year, I said, I'm going to be an All-Star next year. So plan some things for All-Star because I'm going to be an All-Star. And it's been great. And so one thing that's beautiful to me is everyone on my team, starting with my family, I told them all, and they all believe Travis, he believed and he showed up, and we put that work in every day. And he even said not long ago, he said, Day, I ain't never went to an All-Star game, but when you make it, I want to be at this All-Star game because I know how much this will mean. I know the work that we put in, and I just want to be at this one, And, down to my teammates, this organization, and everyone who believed in me setting that goal and actually reaching it. Like I just got a call from Brownie, who's not only my barber, but has become my brother. And just like, you sit in the chair and you have all these conversations and just like talking to him over and over again about being an All-Star. And I haven't even gotten a chance to check my phone yet because obviously I was just doing TNT and came straight up here. But it's exciting because, Ray was just saying like, man, you're a 4-time All-Star. Imagine you at 8 years old. Would you ever believe that? I said, Ray, I was a 3-time All-Star at one point and never thought I'd become a 4-time All-Star. So I don't need to go back to 8 years old. I was 29 years old and didn't know how I would become an All-Star again, but I knew that if I was going to, it would start with me putting my head down and working the same way I put my head down and worked to become an All-Star the first time. And so I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and act like it's no big deal. It's a really big deal. And in part due to a lot of people counting me out, saying I was washed up, saying I can't shoot in the game, it's past me and this, that, and the other. Like, no, I am an all-star. And, you know, me making this all-star game this year doesn't make me an all-star. I've been an all-star, but I'm happy to prove it again because a lot of people doubted me. And to be honest with you, at times it made me doubt myself. And so, but I never stopped believing in myself. So I'm extremely excited, and it feels really good. It feels really good.
You're going to be out obviously still a little while. James is still unknown when he's going to be back. The trade deadline's coming up next week. Where do you believe that you guys need to do something, or are you of the belief that what you have is fine?
What I do believe is, and know to be true, that we are not a heavy trade deadline team. We have not been since I've been here. I can count on one hand probably the amount of moves that we've made at the trade deadline since I've been here. We brought in Jordan Clarkson and Marshawn Brooks, Steve Blake,
Wiggins, Russell.
Wiggs and the Wiggs and D'Angelo trade, and then Kelly, Alec, and Glenn. And if I'm not mistaken, that's it. I've been here 10 years. So 7 guys in 10 years. There's 15 guys on a roster, which in 10 years means at least 150 guys on this roster. Obviously, some are the same. 7. So the percentage of that is probably like 5%, something like that. We've never been that team to make a bunch of moves at the trade deadline. I personally don't see it happening this year, where we're making it. We have a great team. We believe in our team. We have found a great mix of youth and experience, and we're executing it. So I don't think, and it's not my role, my job, but I can't see it happening. And if it does, I'd be shocked.
Draymond, you were playing at DPOY caliber before you went down, and you guys had the #1 defense. And since you left, the defense has still been really good. I was wondering what you thought about that, and if you've been able to participate somehow, whether coaching or something.
Within the last couple weeks, not much. Earlier, the first couple weeks, a little more. But the reality is you establish a culture, and just because one guy go out don't mean you lose your culture. You will still be held accountable to defend, whether I am on the court or off the court. Our defensive rules will still remain the same, whether I am on the court or off the court. And I think that is the testament. That is how you know that you're building a championship team. Because just because one guy goes out, that does not mean you stop being who you are. And I think when I watch our team, that's evident. Like, no, you're going to continue to defend because that's what's required of you here. It's not because Draymond's out, our defense goes to shit. No, because you're not allowed to go to shit. Like, it's just not how we operate. And so, it's no shock to me that we've stayed at the level that our defense was. And, I know that I'll come back and I'll make that defense better. And so I'm looking forward to that. I also think I'll get back and still win Defensive Player of the Year, because one thing's for certain, I lost Defensive Player of the Year to a guy who missed a bunch of time. So I still have no doubt that I'll get back and I'll win that.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think there's a minimum number of games in your mind, or any sense of like, I got to get back by to make sure that you are at the top of the list of that one?
No, I just got to get back and dominate, because one thing's for certain, there's no one that's played better defense than me this year. And if I hadn't got hurt, I would have won it by a landslide. So now I just need to get back and win it.
Let's just do 2 more. Don, do you have one?
Yeah, Draymond, you said maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and
I hope.
you hope, and that it's pain-free now. Are you looking at during this time mostly to get your strength back to usual or your game back to usual?
Both. Like I said before, I don't want to mosey out there on the court just because I can. I don't want to go out on the court and I'm not at full strength. Like I want to feel good about my game. I want to feel good about my conditioning. I want to feel good about my body. And that takes time to get all three of those things on the same. I mean, there's times like where you're going through a season and like healthy, and all three of those things aren't on the same page. So that takes time, and I understand that, and I am locked into the process of getting there. But I need those three things. I need those three things to align, just because of the nature of the injury. I don't want to come back and trying to find my game and I'm pressing and, like I said, I'm overcompensating and doing this. And no, I want to feel great. I want to have gotten some scrimmaging under my belt to where I feel good about my game, to where I feel good about my conditioning. And like I said, most importantly, that I feel good about my body.
No.
Oh, okay, thank you. When you consider that you guys went to 5 consecutive finals, when you consider that you often play center in physical basketball, would you describe this back injury as a wear and tear thing or something completely random?
I think most injuries are wear and tear. That's just kind of the nature of what we do to our bodies. It's just a buildup. And so I never got the answer from one of the doctors where it was wear and tear or whether it could have been acute and I just didn't realize it. Like, to be honest with you, I don't even think we ever discussed or even tried to figure that out. We just kind of figured out what it was and what's the plan, what we need to do from here. Let me lock into this plan and let me give it a go.
So then a side conversation, if you've heard some of that criticism, that, he's washed up or Draymond's body is breaking down. I don't think. I hear
but
your,
it's that probably comes from the same person that said I was washed up and wouldn't be an all-star. So we know how much that opinion matters. But all opinion matters, I guess. Tim, you had a question. I'll answer it if you got one.
That was actually going to be just like that.
The way that Kuminga and Moody played, I'm just curious on what you've seen.
I've seen Kuminga work ethic improve. And not that he wasn't a hard worker, because I haven't been around him long enough to say whether he was a hard worker or not. But what I've seen is him learning how to work. And as he's learning how to work, his game is getting better. His understanding is getting better. And I think that's important. And then Moses, on the other hand, Moses is like the old, 19-year-old that's like, does everything right, works his butt off, no complaints about nothing. And the reality is both of those guys can and will be successful. One probably has someone teaching him what it's like to work hard and be a professional since he was 10 years old. And then the other one was probably extremely gifted. Someone realized it, threw him out there on the basketball court with his gifts, and that was that, and not much guidance. He now has that guidance, and what he's shown is he believes in accepting that guidance and that he will and that he's willing to change who he's possibly been his entire life. And because of that, I think he's going to be super special because he listens. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and act like he's had it all figured out from the beginning. No, he's been late a few times. Like, the vets have had to step in a few times, and it's beautiful to see because he's nowhere near a finished product. And all of those things, they happen. And if you don't understand, you can either have someone that writes you off or you can have someone that believes in you and want to show you the way. And one thing I can assure you, every coach, performance team, front office, and most importantly, I think player believes in him and does everything they can to help him, and he listens to everything that you say. And so I have no doubt that he's going to be great and that he'll continue to grow, because it's not that he doesn't listen. I think it was a lack of things to listen to. And now he's getting that, and it's rapidly improving. And like I said, I think Moses will be successful for all of those reasons that I already named. So the future is bright, especially with those two. Like, they're going to be damn good pros, and both probably will end up being all-stars.
I mean, we could go here for 20 minutes. I can go down the roster and get coach in here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Number one, I wanted to do that and be DPOY just because you know how people do it. Like they said about Dame, like, oh, you rapping now, you can't play basketball, as if we're idiots and can only do one thing at a time. And so the reality is when I'm done playing basketball, I'll do some of that stuff. And why not work on it now? Why not get better now if the opportunity is there? And the opportunity was there. I am extremely grateful for the opportunities to be a part of the TNT/Turner family, because it's not easy to become part of that family. But when you're in the family, you're in and you feel it. And so to be a part of such a prestigious group, I always want to align myself with some of the best, and they are some of the best to do it. And so I think for me it was a no-brainer. And to do that, and like I just worked. I just finished working. Like I wasn't a guest on TNT today. I was working. While working, I got named an all-star. Like that's incredible. Like that's not just some normal thing. I think that's amazing. And if I can open up a lane for guys to be able to do that while they're playing, why won't I go for it? And why can't it be me to open up that lane and create a new lane for guys? Why can't I do it? And if I can do it, why can't anybody else do it? You know, so I'm all about trying to set new paths and pave new ways when I can, and I think that's one of them, and I am extremely excited about it. Thank you.